And now back to Nemo Nation with Dave Nemo, Jimmy Mack, and of course, Phone Master Dre.
Ooh, I love when she says my name. Good morning, Jimmy and Dave. Back to you.
Well, as Yogi Berra would have said, you can observe a lot by just watching, but we're going to observe a lot by just listening right now because we're going to be listening to Kevin Burch. He is the VP of Government Affairs and Sales at Martin Transportation Systems, but a longtime friend of the show and a great ambassador, as is Elizabeth, to the industry. Kevin, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Dave and Jimmy Mack. Good to be here. I've got a high bar to try to get over with Elizabeth Barna. That's a tough one to follow. I don't think that's ever happened before.
She paid me $15 not to have to follow you.
Oh, that's a good one. Well, good morning to you guys.
Good morning. So she's doing some traveling right now. What about yourself?
I'm in Dayton, Ohio, crossroads of America. Not traveling quite as much. I don't know whether it's because of the age or because of technology. You don't have to travel as much. But no, I'm doing well, and it seems like I think I've heard you say it before. We're about the same age, but it seems like we learn something every month.
Oh,
Jimmy
definitely.
Jimmy Mack's a young one, but I'm sure he's learning too. But I know I am.
I tell you this, I might be a young one. My knees don't agree with any of that sentiment. By the way, I don't. My knees don't feel like I'm younger than you guys. Kevin, it's good to have you on this morning. And Dave's got some stuff for you as well. But one of the things that you and Elizabeth always have been as real great ambassadors and real positive energy in the trucking sphere. But I wanted to kind of ask you right now, because we are in the midst of a tough time for truckers to make money, and if you had any thoughts or any insights into how to maintain that positive attitude, or what you're seeing out there as you talk to a lot of folks both on the road and behind the desk, because you're one of those people, like our friend Tom Bray, who actually does talk to people on all sides of the industry.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity because, I just really love to be involved in the trucking as I have over the years and to tell our story. I've got a kind of a large nose, but I got larger ears, so I try to listen to drivers. And it's surprising that I'd say the last three quarters, there's been kind of some concern about the money issue, maybe some attitude issues because trucking companies are faced with shippers and whatnot looking for lower pricing, if you will, and the economy and all the things going on. But I will say that a lot of the drivers have said, they're happy with the pay rate, the fact that, let's face it, what the drivers were making 4, 5, 6 years ago, there's no comparison where they're at today. But one thing I have noticed is that I don't think it's the word concern, but I think it's the drivers they understand that the economy affects trucking companies and that they are making a fairly good wage with benefits and schedules and whatnot has improved. And they're not, I don't think they have a defeative attitude, if you will, Jimmy Mack, but I think they know that we've got a bumpy road and that we've gone down this before. And, I think we're all right. I think, I know a lot of my colleagues will say, I'm getting tired of, changes are coming next quarter and then it's next quarter, then it's the next year. I heard economists out there at 2027 talking. So you got to be a little bit careful about all this data that everybody likes to use that word data. But I think the driving force right now that we have is the needle is more to the right than it is to the left.
One of the things too that is making another round here is hours of service, and I'm sure you guys up at Martin have been talking about the new pilot programs they're putting into place. And really, what kind of gets my goat about this one is they want to bring something like the 5 and 5 back, which was a beautiful setup for what I call the empty nesters. So the guys out there doing his career on the road, the mom has the kids at home. She's probably got a job too. So she's doing that. The kids get out of this house. She goes on the road. Old school, he would teach her how to drive. New school, she would go to school. But then they would wind up in the truck together, and they would have a wonderful time seeing the country, making some money, doing the 5-by-5 split sleeper. I have no clue how many of those husband-wife teams we lost when that was pulled out. And now they want to bring it back. I mean, come on, you know?
Yeah, I'm not too sure, on that so much. And I kind of walk a fine line when I start talking about the technology, the ELDs. I mean, I've been involved with ATA and TCA over the years. Look how long it took us for this hours of service. I mean, I'm saying I remember being in meetings, Dave, for 10 or 12 years, talking about the hours and whatnot. But
yeah.
So this certainly isn't a quick fix, but I don't have too much comment or really at 5 to 5. I don't know whether that's going to happen, but I will say that I think it's odd. I know we're tight on time, but one thing that we've always talked about, whether you're OIDA or ATA, TCA, whatever organization, about driver turnover, if you will, or driver shortage. One thing that I have noticed that Jimmy Mack was saying, what are you hearing out there? I think that the good companies are getting better. They're lowering their turnover rate. So the ones, back in the day, if you had a 40% turnover rate or thereabouts, man, you were a hell of a carrier, which meant that you had some that were 80 or 85. I believe this year I can make a comment that I think the lower turnover companies are even getting lower, and the ones that are higher are getting higher. And nobody's ever talked about that, but I don't think the ones that are getting higher are giving up, but they're not coming up with these ideas, whatnot, on how to retain a driver. Because I saw the other day it was $12,000 estimated cost to retain a driver or to get a driver. And
that is amazing. The last time I heard that number, it was, let me see how long ago this was. It was $6,000, and people were pulling their hair out.
Yeah, and Dave, you and I are on. Yeah, we got the rows. We got the oars in the rowboat about the same idea. I heard, it used to be a number was 6 that I would hear. Now I'm hearing 12. But I guess what I'm saying is that the ones that are in that 20, 30, that sweet spot on turnover percentage, I think they're heading down towards 10 because they get it, they understand it. But the ones that are, which means that we've got I bet you we've got companies that are 150 to 200. So I think there's no division. I think the better ones are getting really good, and the ones that have been, getting used to driver turnover, get them in, get them out, turn them over, that type of thing, those numbers are getting higher. And I tell you which side of the fence I'd be on is the one that's going lower.
Well, it's hard to change a trajectory too. I mean, you get on you put a business plan together and you move it forward. It becomes a trajectory, and it's really hard to stop that and turn it around. So if you're losing drive, you're doing the same thing. You're doing some really good stuff. Otherwise, you're not on the road anymore at all, right? So you're obviously doing some good things, but the component that keeps the driver with the company is the area that you've evidently never have been good at, and have no clue as to how to do it, which seems really strange.
Absolutely. And
this days where we have all this communication, all these meetings, all of this internet stuff.
Actually, I'm gonna throw something at Kevin, and Kevin, if you decide to gracefully decline to answer this, but I don't think you're going to have a problem given where you have kind of thrown your weight around in this conversation. You are on the side of the people who are figuring out ways to keep their retention numbers up. What is most concerning to me, and I think a lot of the drivers listening might agree, is that those companies that have numbers 85, 90, 100, 150, all that stuff we're talking about, Kevin, I think that there's some people who have figured out how to make that work as a business model. That has, as Dave has said, not just become a situation, it has become the process. And that there are companies out there who are flirting with disaster by literally being set up to churn and burn. And the ones that aren't doing it, the ones that you've taken time to praise, have figured out that even in tough economic times, it makes economic sense to hold on to folks because you don't want to have to ramp back up when the economy does get better. But I wonder sometimes if there are companies who know exactly what they're doing with that kind of turnover or have adjusted their model to actually make room for that kind of turnover. And that's concerning to me. Your thoughts. And you can say, no habla inglés if you want to.
No, I don't think I've ever paused or said no comment. It's just not me. But I think I don't think you're too far off from being spot on. There are people, and drivers are the same way, but company owners and whatnot. They've figured out a way from the back door and worked from the back door to try to get to the front door. That's probably not a smart way, but maybe I think what you just said, Jimmy Mack, is that maybe some companies have figured that turn and churn, that type of thing, and that raises my hair on my arm, and that's not a good thing to figure that out, because that's not good for the industry. It's not good for the motoring public. It's not good for the economy. There's just nothing good about that. But I will say, though, that a good company can spend a lot of money on these programs, if you will, data collection, promotional things, safety. I mean, I think truly safety is important to all of us. I really believe that. It's not just a statement. It happens. But when you're not making money and you're having issues, it's tough to promote things like that if you don't think that your competitors are doing it, whether it's the technology on a trailer or a truck. And it's tough. And that's where I think we're at right now. Things are so costly, and you can't give up on the safety side. But yeah, I'm sure there's some that have figured it out, and they're not small companies, probably larger companies that figured that out. But I don't particularly care for it. Does that answer that at all?
That's a great answer for that, by the way. And by the way, Kevin, it's kind of what I predicted you would say. I kind of had a feeling you'd be like, that it might be happening, and if in fact it's happening actively, you're against it. Did I get you right on that?
Yeah, that's pretty much. I mean, I've always been from the top down. I believe in that with the image programs that I've been involved in, and as I get older, I don't say choose my words carefully, but what you say makes a difference, because the time clock is ticking, and this trucking thing, it's continually changing, but since COVID, let's get back to being the knights of the road, and we've got a good product to sell. We don't produce anything. We provide a service. It's not that complicated, but a lot of people like to make it complicated.
Well, uncomplicatedly, we got to call it this morning, Kevin. You know how what kind of time limits we're on? We gave you one of the longer segments. We always love catching up with the Vice President of Governmental Affairs and Sales at Martin Transportation Systems,
Kevin Burch.
Good to have you, man.
Appreciate you guys. Take care, and God bless. Thanks for all you do.
Oh, thank you, my friend. Thank you so much. Kevin Burch, everybody. He is the VP of Government Affairs and Sales at Martin Transportation Systems, mtstrans.com.